evening. Hello, everybody. It's day 28 at the month long celebrations of Diversity Mahotsav. On behalf of Team Avatar and myavatar.com, I'm happy to welcome you all. I'm Anumita Sharma and I will be your host this evening. As we start, here are a few hygiene checks for a seamless virtual experience. Please log out from your organization's VPN and close all other applications on your computer to conserve your internet bandwidth. Once again, extremely thrilled and delighted to welcome you all to the 28th day of Diversity Mahotsav. Diversity Mahotsav is presented by myavatar.com, India's only diversity portal with jobs, events, skilling programs, webinars, and more for all the underrepresented talent pools at organizations. As we step into the last few days of this month-long celebration, we would like to thank you all for logging in every day and listening to us. For those of you who have joined in today, we are delighted to have you on board. We hope you would join us for the fitting finale week. We would like to thank our partners for Diversity Mahotsav 2021, ideology partners Cognizant, HCL Technologies Limited, and Strive, supporting partners for Asia India Private Limited, Logitech Engineering and Designs India Private Limited, Saint Gobain India Private Limited, Sodexo and Zorian Solutions, and community partner NASCOM. Our social media hashtags are hashtag Diversity Mahotsav and hashtag Celebrating Diversity. We look forward to you posting your experience at Diversity Mahotsav on using these hashtags on your social media handles. Let us begin our 28th day with the 28th edition of Sound Bites, a series where our founder president, Dr. Soundarya Rajesh, answers some of the pertinent questions that she has been addressing on various aspects of diversity, equity, and inclusion in her 21-year career on being the subject matter expert. Dr. Soundarya Rajesh is an award-winning pioneer in this field, and her work in this space of DEI is unparalleled in the country. A second career woman herself, she pioneered the second career movement in India Inc. and is a relentless advocate of the potential of women at the workplace. She has won several accolades and awards such as Web Wonder Women, 100 Women Achiever from the Government of India, Web Wonder Women by Twitter and Ministry of Women and Childcare, Winds of Change 2019 award by the Forum of Inclusion at Minnesota, Women Transforming India Award, Golden Aviator Award, Asia's Most Innovative Diversity and Inclusive Leaders Award, and so on. Yesterday, Dr. Soundarya explained on the various biases that typically exist in an organization that derail an organization's DEI goals. When we get to the biases, it's important for us to understand how these biases are formed, and most of them are internalized through years and years of conditioning. Let's hear it from the expert. Over to you, Dr. Soundarya.
The belief that some people, some ideas are better than the rest is one of the very simple ways in which non-conscious bias or even bias actually exhibits. This includes a lot of personal experiences which makes us process events in a particular way. While most of our ideas are formed due to the value systems that we are a part of, there are also influences such as stereotypes which condition our minds. Hence, to be very aware of biases, it's first of all important to know that biases exist, and not only that, biases could very well derail things like promotion, performance, and even influence everyday interactions at the workplace.
Sorry about that. Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Soundarya. Self-awareness is the first step towards mitigating some of these biases that manifest in the organizational context. Now let us move on to the today's session. In our segment, Winning Inclusion Policy, we have two speakers from Strive, Zeel Dusia, Talent Acquisition Lead, and with Vinita Vipin Mohandas, AVP Operations. Zeel Dusia, Talent Acquisition Lead at Strive, she is a result driven TA professional with passion for sourcing and identifying top talents. Zeal's motto is to make human resources more humane. Vinita Vipin Mohandas, AVP Operations at Strive, who's passionate about investing time and effort in developing human capital and considers it as a must have skill to thrive amongst these uncertain times. We will have both these speakers take us through the significance of DEI and the understanding of DEI with relation to talent acquisition at Strive, and also how this organization is understanding and improving the DEI quotient. Over to you, Zeel. Unmute yourself, please.
Is it better?
Yes.
All right. Good evening, and thank you so much, Anumita. Thank you for the introduction. And I hope everyone is safe and sound and they're doing their bit in, stopping the spread of this virus that we have. I would like to thank Avatar, first of all, for this diversity Mahotsav, for setting up the space so that we can all come together and share our thoughts on the pressing need of DEI. Just quickly, just give me a few seconds. I'll just share my screen over here right now. Yes, I hope my screen is visible. So to take from what Dr. Saundarya mentioned the other day, and I know Prabhakar also mentioned it yesterday because we feel it beautifully sums up DEI that diversity is a program, equity is a principle, and inclusivity is process and practice. So the way I look at it, basically, if you guys can visualize it with me, when I see diversity, equity, and inclusivity, if I see a Venn diagram of it, the crux that comes together is belongingness. At least that's how I look at it. And I feel belongingness right now is the need of the hour with whatever's happened in last couple of years with us, when with the pandemic coming in, with certain socio-economic issues that came up. It is the belongingness which is missing right now. So on that note, I will just like to share a short video with you, and I'd like to take it ahead. I'll just switch on the video for you. So as the video very clearly summed it up for us, you, me, we, all of us together, we are diversity. And one of the values that we champion here at Strive when it comes to diversity that Prabhakar also spoke about the other day is respect. So respect is how you treat everyone, not just those who you want to impress. I just put it up out there because this is one of the quotes that really spoke to me. So I'll just sum up the DEI definition. What I believe DEI is personally. starting with diversity. For me, diversity is the recognition and acceptance that differences exist in the world. I know we all sometimes feel diversity, especially in workforce, is the gender diversity. But of course, many different types of diversities also exist, like sexual orientation, age, socioeconomic status, race, ethnicity, and along with gender now, gender identity. Moving on to equity. Equity is promoting fairness and justice within the set procedures, processes, and distribution of the resources with respect to the differences. And inclusivity, which I feel is kind of the glue which brings DEI together. Because according to me, inclusion is an outcome to ensure those that are diverse actually feel and or are welcomed, regardless. Moving on, I would like to take you through Journey of Strive, where as far as DEI is concerned, again, it's a short video. I'll just... Yes, please. I'm sorry, just give me a time. Yes, please.
At the heart of Strive's diversity, equity, and inclusion program is a spirit of celebration. At Strive, we focus our advocacy on programs where employees can celebrate other employees' individuality, and so promote acceptance and inclusivity. Hashtag I Celebrate You is how we live up to Strive's value of respect. Hashtag I Celebrate You is our commitment to the society and our employees to celebrate a workplace that regards differences in color, belief, lifestyle, gender, race, capability, and everything that makes every person unique or important and worth celebrating.
Yes, please. So towards the end, as you saw, that our DEI journey continues. So can we say that we are really aggressive, disciplinarian about DEI? Well, no, we are learning as we are going by the way. The way the world is changing, everything is changing. Our policies are what we are changing. But what we are trying to do is consciously take little steps at micro level, basically, so that we can implement our DEI principles better. So now everyone is, even we are here to celebrate DEI, to know more about it. But the question is why? Why is it even necessary? Why do we need DEI? So before moving on to the next slide, I would want to just take up this topic with you guys. So basically the thing is DEI agenda right now, gone are the days when we were planning that we should have or how should we implement it. Now it's more about action, because with increased globalization, with increase in technology, it's either you catch up with the trend or you basically lose out. Especially with pandemic, we have our employees working in remote cities. They are no longer concentrated to the city of the office location. We have employees across all the ages coming in, across all the education coming in and helping us. So diverse, if you are not keeping up with the trend, the organization will lose out. Now, as per many studies and audits and reviews that have taken, um, there are certain factors that that champion diverse teams. Like, for example, if there is a diverse team, then those candidates, or rather those employees, basically are more stronger. They are more stronger in terms of team dynamics because they are better communicators, they are better collaborators, because they want to communicate effectively with each other and come up with solutions. So they are better at problem solving. They might take a little time more as compared to your non-diverse team members, but well, they'll get there and they'll get there better. And also the thing is, from an employee perspective, when I feel that I'm being respected as an individual, when I'm being listened to, when I'm being valued, I'm motivated. And a better motivator, I mean, nothing can be better motivator than rewards and recognition there. So moving on to my next slide, which will cover this topic a bit more in detail. Why DEI? So again, profitability increases because happier employees will need to better work, profitability, and of course, engagement. As I said, when diverse team members are talking to each other, when you put them up with a common target, they'll come up with creative solutions to get the job done. So that also takes care of your innovation and decision making. So another thing that I mentioned, while homogeneous teams, they may be more productive in the short term, diverse teams apply different perspectives, experiences, and skill sets to become even more productive in the long run. All right. Moving on to the next slide for me. DEI agenda for talent acquisition. So I have been a through and through talent acquisition professional as far as human resources is concerned. This talent acquisition agenda is something you would have also seen yesterday when Prabhakar basically shared the DEI agenda for Strive on the whole. So I thought I'll take the talent acquisition bit and speak a bit in detail with you guys about it. So the agenda, as very clearly mentioned, is anticipate future needs, target diverse talent pipeline, especially for certain crucial roles. While agenda is one bit, us and talent acquisition team, we have to work on the ground level. What are the action items for us so that basically we can achieve this agenda for our management? So for this, we have to go back to the drawing board. So first of all, I think that we need to go back and review our policies. What are our current policies? Are they keeping in line with the DEI culture or not, or the principles or not? If they are not, then there's time to revise them, or maybe even check them out and bring the new ones in, which are more in line with the current DEI trends. So to review the policies, once the policies are reviewed and approved, to cascade it to the right group so that the most people at the ground level, they know what my policies are. Everyone and anyone should be confident about their DEI policies as an employee, specifically HR personnel, and more specifically, talent acquisition people. I say this because right down we have managers, we have recruiters, we have sources who basically are going out in the market speaking to our future workforce. They're selling our organization to our future workforce. So if they are not aware of the policies, it will become very difficult in the longer run, because employees will have no clue as to what is the DEI agenda of my organization. Another way of ensuring this is regular audits, regular hiring audits, regular audits about the job ads, the print media that you have, be it social media, be it LinkedIn, be it wherever that we are posting or branding our organization. Are they in line with the DEI principles or not? So these are few of the action items that we have, which basically help us to achieve the talent acquisition agenda, at least as far as Strive is concerned. Moving on, it all starts at the beginning. So I just gave you a clue about this. So in talent acquisition, basically the basic level is my sourcing team who's out there sourcing the candidates for us. So I believe the chat app option is on over here, if I'm not wrong. Is it? Okay, no worries. So I would like to just give you a few, I would just like to throw a few job ads at you, like, and you can maybe tell me or you can visualize the best candidate in terms of age bracket and gender that comes in your mind. So there is a job ad which is looking for a dynamic, go-getter, mobile, target-oriented individual for a sales position. And these are visual clues. And automatically that we think of is um, a male candidate, preferably in his mid to late 20s, and with a nice tie, fully suited, all set to achieve his sales targets. And if I was to give you a job ad that we are looking for a soft spoken, presentable, good in English communication, a good motivator, mentor for my copy editing team. The visual cues basically are such that we would actually picture a female candidate, preferably in, again, mid to late 30s, and being a copy editor basically. So moving on, job ads. So job ads basically avoid in job ads, basically you avoid the words that might discourage women, that might discourage people of color and other members of underrepresented groups from applying. I'll give you an example of that. Masculine oriented words. There are some words which are more masculine in nature, like aggressive, active, dominant, decisive. No. We can use more female oriented words like dependable, committed, responsible, loyal. Okay. Then at the same time, in many of the job ads, unconsciously, we end up using he or she. Maybe we can use you as so that we are targeting it across all the genders, across all the pronouns now. And another unbiased view of this would be that to always have must-haves in your job ad and nice to haves. Okay, we will discuss about that also later. Secondly, one of the things that one can take care of is to use images which contain people from diverse group in the organization. Visual cues, they matter a lot. So let us, wherever we have the branding of our organization, let us please have diverse group showing diverse organizations basically. Eliminate unnecessary job skills or requirements that might negatively impact recruitment of unrepresented groups. So as you can see, we have fairness and we have, the target groups that we are targeting. So at times when we are using words like we are looking for an active, mobile, young individual, now, while we all have our unconscious bias, the candidate on the other side applying for jobs, they also have their unconscious biases. When they read this, maybe if someone is differently abled, they would not apply for that job purely because of the jargons which are being used over there. So maybe we can be more specific. And as I said, few qualities which are must haves and few qualities which are nice to have. At times we, for all the jobs that we post, we say strong in English, strong in English communication, but strong as compared to whom? And I'm pretty sure every job out there in your organization doesn't need extremely strong communication in English. Maybe you can say is good at communicating the thoughts. It is okay if it is in regional languages, that is perfectly fine. Or maybe it would be good to have if they know a certain software, if they have a knowledge of it. We are ready to basically train them on the job. So that is something that the world is moving towards, to maybe hire for the skill or hire for the talent, hire for the attitude that they have, and then groom them for the job that you have. Third would be that job ads should contain DEI statements. I'll give you a few examples. When I say DEI statements, I'll take the liberty of using it for Strive as my employer, like Strive is an equal opportunity partner, or diversity thrives at Strive, or Strive champions diversity. These are all visual cues which matter in the longer run to attract the right set of candidates for your organization. I'll just move on. What I have done is I've taken the liberty of compiling this checklist that I personally have for job ads when I am posting them somewhere. So yes, we might want to avoid words that discourage women, people of color, and other members of underrepresented groups, which we just saw. Again, something that we discussed, that to use images containing people from diverse group in the organization, to avoid stereotype messages, to eliminate unnecessary job skills or requirements that might negatively impact recruitment of the underrepresented groups. This is also something that we discuss, like when we are using words like we want someone to be mobile, we want someone to be active. The other underrepresented group, they might feel that they are not fit enough to even apply for this particular job. Job ads should not bear jargons and should be welcoming to workers of all the abilities, and they should not imply preference for candidates, and they should contain the DEI statement. So this is something which we already discussed, and I just amalgamated all of them and put it up here as a checklist that we have. And lastly, hiring talent acquisition does not stop with extending the offer letter to the said candidates, right? We have to have a pleasant onboarding experience we have to give to them, and then of course they have to have good employee experience, and it needs to continue throughout their journey with us Strive, and eventually wherever they go they should take this as an example. So we have multiple activities. So like you can see Reignite, which was discussed yesterday, Prabhakar, which is like for career restart, women who want to get into career restart. Then we have mindfulness and mental health awareness. Other two that you can see basically are On the Spot and Circle of Champions, which basically are our rewards and recognition programs across all the locations for Strive across the globe. And lastly, you can also see a Thanksgiving festival, which is something of an employee engagement that we did in pandemic times to, again, for employee engagement, which was across and throughout Strive across all the locations. So at Strive, we continue to focus on onboarding, skilling, career conversion, and individual development and rewards. How we take it ahead and how we champion our employees, I think we'll have Vinita with us, who is a delivery leader, who's AVP operations for us, and she will be, helping you guys and taking it ahead from there. So thank you so much. You guys have been kind audience, and thank you so much. And over to you, Vinita.
Thank you, Zeel. Just give me a moment. I'll start sharing my screen. So hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to be part of the session. I'm sure at the end of it, there's a lot of learning and, some of the topics that Zeel has already touched on. If you've been part of the earlier sessions, it's probably just reaffirming the understanding. But, to me personally, I think DEI starts with I as an individual, right? Because, we can talk about diversity, we can talk about equity, we can talk about inclusion, but if we don't get the crux of it, and if we don't assimilate it, if we don't, give the feel that, we talk about it in word and spirit, no policy can help us. No amount of activities around us can support, taking our teams and organization forward and our communities forward, right? So what I think, personally, what I thought is absolutely important is to be able to understand, the base of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'll also support, my goal will be that at the end of it, when we close the session, each of us have very clear understanding of what DEI is and, how to improve it. So if you look at the screen here, this is a very common picture that's kind of used for in various DEI sessions. And you'll find on the left and the right, there are people who are trying to achieve the same objective. That's kind of plucking the fruit. But then on your right hand side, you see that they are successful, but on the left hand side, you find that two of them may not be reaching, the goal as such. So as we move through, probably you can relate better in terms of what is the difference really, and how do we support this cause, right? So when we talk about diversity, there are very many definitions, but I think what's really important is to really keep it simple. And diversity is nothing but the differences, right? There could be differences, there are differences within the family, and you can only imagine how it extends to the larger, extended family, your community, the organization, the workplace that you work, right? So it's all the different meaningful ways that one person can differ from the other person, or a group of people can differ from the other person, right? And it's a quantitative representation of identities, which means you're talking about numbers here. So you have X number belonging to a specific gender, or you have, say for example, Y count of people in your teams that come from a certain geographical location, so on and so forth. And I think the most powerful metaphor that can be used for diversity really is the iceberg model. Those of you, I'm sure all of you know about iceberg, but one very interesting fact of iceberg is that 90% of the iceberg is actually below the surface. And why do we relate it to diversity is because the attributes that make you and I different, or the different people that come up in your team different, those attributes can actually be below the surface, right? So there's something that is visible, and then you have the other section which is actually not visible. What is visible? It could be your skin color, it could be if you talk a certain slang, you have a certain accent, then probably it's obvious that you come from a certain geographical location. But are you native of that place? That could be something that is not really visible, right? My communication style, just by being on this call, not necessary that I'm bringing it out completely. The fact that I belong to a certain community also will not be visible as you speak to me, right? Or as I speak to you. And what is also not visible really is our beliefs, our value system. And interestingly, all of these contribute to the behaviors that we exhibit, and how we interact with each other, and therefore our acceptance or non-acceptance of the diverse group of people that we may be interacting on a daily basis in the workplace. So what is really interesting is, I love this stuff when I looked at it, that we all are comforted by the commonality. There's a very interesting note that some people, no matter in whatever restaurant they go, right, we like to go and ask for our rotis, our dals and khichdi, and we wouldn't mind asking for it, even if it is a continental cuisine restaurant, because we long for it, right? When we are in the midst of common people, we feel as if it's, we are safe, and we are secure. So but what is very important to also understand is that the learning actually comes from diversity, right? So the important aspect of DEI, which is diversity, while it's all good, like what Zeel was mentioning, and yesterday Prabhakar touched on in your hiring process. If you many a times we go by employee referrals, and Prabhakar did mention that when you try and onboard, you're trying to onboard similar set of people, because I may most probably recommend people who I'm very comfortable with, but you need to extend that beyond the comfort factor. You bring in more learning when you have a more diverse crew, right, on your teams and in your organization. And moving on to the equity, if you look at this image, we really need to differentiate between equality and equity, right? If you look onto the left side of the image, you're giving the same set of resources to all the three people, but you're really not meeting the objective. But if you look at the right side of the image, right, the one person does not really have the resource that is being given to the other two, but the end objective of being able to view the game is met. So equity is different from equality, and I think at workspaces, in our community, in wherever we are, we should strive to bring equity in place, because equality may not, or rather does not help meet the objective. So in terms of definition as such, right, equality is about dividing resources in matching amounts. So that's what you precisely see in the left image. And you do it like, equally. But if you see the right side of the image, it is dividing proportionately so that you actually achieve the fair outcome. And very interesting example that I thought about, while reading this, is the government taxes, right? There could be two people. If the government thinks all of us are equal, and kind of levies equal amount of tax on all of us, that's not fair, So it's the same thing that extends, how would you really come up with ideas, different ideas to equip your resources on board, to make sure that you equip them with resources which will help you achieve the final outcome. And this is a very, very close, quote that I strongly believe in, and it extends to the concept of inclusion, and which is how far you go in life, depends on you being tender with the young, compassionate with the aged, sympathetic with the striving, and tolerant of the weak and the strong. Because someday in life you will have been all of these, right? And we will be fooling ourselves if we say this is not true. And why do I bring this so-called philosophy within the gambit of DEI, is because this is what inclusion is all about. And that is like, you call a set of people, you onboard them, you call them for meeting. Do you really ensure that you give them voice, that they are heard, that they feel they belong to this place? And remember, when you're being inclusive, you're not doing any favor for anybody, right? Each person adds value, and I think that's what we need to keep in mind, that we it's a favor that we do to us and not to the opposite person. It's all about the mindset. So we need to consciously, continuously work towards improving that and removing some of the blind spots that we may have. So I'll give you some tips and tricks, 9 steps as to how we can improve our DI, or rather diversity quotient. The first of it is really awareness. I mean, the fact that there's this Mahotsav going on is a clear indication that this topic is no longer a coffee table topic, right? It's so important that we need to imbibe that we are aware of this particular topic, and each of our activity ideas, how we manage our teams, is done with this conscious awareness of diversity, of being, equitable, of making sure that our, how we manage our teams is inclusive in nature. And where does it all begin? It all begins with I as an individual, right? I as an individual, I need to bring the best of myself to the flow. So unless and until I do that, there is no way that you can really appreciate the diversity that exists around us. So while we focus on our, what surrounds us, what's really important is to be able to know who we are as an individual. And therefore, one of the really important factor here is that you know who you are, and you bring the best of yourself to the table. We looked at the beginning of the session where we're talking about the bias, and this is so crucial, right? Because sometimes you think you know something, but actually you may not know it. And sometimes you do know that you have a bias and you don't want to correct it. So just for a clue, you can actually, there's something called a project implicit. There's a website. You can go in there and check your own bias. If there are 90 different categories in there, and there is, every question is like an image, and there are two different answers to it. So the speed at which you select the answer really showcases what your real belief is, right? So it's a very interesting test, and if you find time, do take time to actually go through it. The D part of it is check your DNA. Why do I put it here? Because we all think we belong to a certain space. We all think we belong to a certain community, race, ethnicity. But if you really go back, and check where you belong or where you come from, you will be surprised, and that actually can bring a sea change of attitude for people that you look at. And this is coming from my own personal experience. I used to think that I come from a certain part of the state that I belong to, and I was really surprised, and that too very recently, when my father said that we actually come from northern part of the state and not the southern side. So it's quite interesting, and that history dates back to a couple of years, hundreds of years, right? So you'll be really surprised if you go back and find out where your roots are, and to be able for you to appreciate yourself and the space that you live in. Now, if there are any dietitians on the session here, I'm sure you will not spare me for this, but then what's also important is you eat out more. And why do I say this? Because the food is so much part of what and who we are, right? It's part of our culture. And if you go out and you experience a different type of cuisine, you really feel the spices that make up all the different cuisines of the world. That's where you really start appreciating, and that acceptance comes in. So do try that out, right? Consciously though. And of course, we touched on the focus on women, right? I mean, all of us know that we all strive. There are organizations take different approaches consciously trying to promote women, in different cadres. But what is important is that I, as an individual, also, if I have biases, right, I stay away from that, and try and support my community, because it's so crucial today that we do that, right? And this, of course, it doesn't really, we know all of the different situations that have developed, Black Lives Matter, and the GLAD matters, the fact that we need to be sensitive to all of these, topics that was not so vocal earlier, but today is becoming critical for our, very existence, isn't it? And the hidden handicap, it's nothing but, sometimes when we talk to people, we only see what's in front of us, but there are so many hidden factors, and each of us are trying to battle, or manage our own battles. So Zeal did touch on one fact, which is respect, right? And if we have, if we respect, in every conversation, bring in respect in every conversation, every transaction that we have, that should stem from the fact that there are many hidden things in our interactions with people that we may not be aware of. Finally, and not the least though, is the insights that you develop from your surroundings, from your conversations with people, and you exhibit it in your own behavior, in your own transactions with people, so that you stand as an inspiration. It's not necessary that you have to be at a certain, in a certain position to be able to inspire people, but you can do it from the very place that you stand, and it's just the first step that matters. And as you keep inspiring, let more power be with you, so that we change the communities and the workplace around us, right? So Zale did touch on belonging, and when we have the diversity, equity, inclusion, all of these, a fine balance of all of these, what you really get is belongingness. Because like I touched on earlier, right, diversity is a quantitative aspect of it. Inclusiveness is a qualitative aspect of it, right? It's a choice, it's a mindset. But belonging is really a feeling. Does your team have the sense of belongingness? Only when they have the sense of belongingness will they feel and share the goal, objective of the organization. Your vision, mission stands more powerful and near the site, when people have the sense of belongingness, right? So ultimately, equity, inclusion, and belongingness are ways of individuals to be their full authentic selves. It's very fair and simple. It's because when we hear all of these terms, we kind of are part of these sessions. Sometimes they can be very complex, but then I remember one of my earlier managers that I worked with. She used to say, it's all dealing with human emotions. There's nothing more than that, and that's the biggest reality that we need to assimilate. So if you're able to get that reality, and we bring everything else together, that's where magic tends to happen, right? So at Strive, we do various activities which revolve around our goal to kind of give out the sense of belongingness. And we've done, like, earlier in the year, one whole month of an activity called a Women's Month. We have Reignite, which is like for PA, the ladies who want to start their career again. There has been a whole week of stress buster activities, and it goes. The pandemic has not really left any of us untouched, right? And these activities does break the ice and try to bring in people, right? and then diversity, equity, and inclusion webinars that we've had internally within the organization, our career pathing for mid-career women. And you would have seen the video, which is like celebrating you, right? I celebrate myself, and I also celebrate you. So these are powerful activities that we have done, and I hope that you take the cue to bring it in your own space as well. You know as I sum up all of these, there's a very short story which is very powerful, and that's that a little girl was walking by the shore with her mother, and she saw that a lot of these starfish was being washed off the shore, right? She kept picking up one and throwing it back into the sea, with the hope that it lives. And the mother looked at her and said, don't bother to do that, because it's not going to help. And the girl simply said, but it will make a difference to this one. So I leave that thought with you, because sometimes it all begins with us and ends with us. And in each of our, in the capacity that we operate within in our organizations, always remember this, because it's us who can make that difference. And sometimes it is all that will, make the difference in how we want to conduct ourselves, right? And yesterday, Prabhakar also touched on the fact that, there's a lot of war for talent that is on. We need to kind of bring people up to speed by reskilling them, because that's what one of the world economic survey also says, that almost 50% of the people need to be reskilled by 2025. And this is a moment for us, and I, as a woman, and I hope that all the ladies on this forum, this is our moment, right? And the pandemic actually has opened up the opportunities for us to be able to reskill your online. You can join the classes that you need. You have very many opportunities today than probably that existed couple of before pandemic, and the moment is ours, right? So let's work towards seizing it and making all the difference that we can in all the possible way that we can. And I hope that you have received the message well, and this session has impacted the way that I intended it to be. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Zeel and Vinita, for that wonderful session. We just have a few questions. We have one for Zeel here. Well, you spoke about some of the do's and don'ts while drafting out JDs, and that was really interesting. So you have also touched upon generational diversity. So would you be able to throw some light on how that's done at Strive, and your thoughts on that?
Sure. So basically here at Strive, we are a diverse workforce, yes, which also covers different generations. Like for us, hiring is not, it is not targeted or particular to any particular generation like X, Y, Z, or millennials or baby boomers. So when we do place an ad, especially right now, this is also one of the changes as pandemic especially has brought in. We are even more conscious of not putting in the age criteria there. As I had also mentioned in my presentation, that we rather look at the skill and the talent and then see where we can have the fitment, because that is what eventually we are looking out for. So certain portals, while we are searching, also have the age criteria. When we do a job post, they ask us that, do you want, candidates from certain age to certain age? But the training that we provide to sourcers and our recruiters basically is to target the right candidate in terms of skill and talent, and not the age or the number.
Makes sense. Thank you so much. That was insightful. Vinita, we do have an interesting one on allyship and belongingness, right? So it goes hand in hand, and you do know that the organization does everything in its capacity to reach that goal of inclusion. So could you speak a little about the initiatives at Strive on allyship and belongingness?
Yeah, so I think both of these topics are not separate, right? It begins from hiring to onboarding, to people settling down in the team. It extends beyond that to mentoring, guiding, and it should stay with them even when they leave. So in terms of activities, I think the concept of equity, where you make sure that you offer the guidance wherever required, so people upskill or reskill themselves, and you stay clear of your bias, when there are opportunities, and you simply focus on the skill that the person has, right? And we have our university internal, university next, that we call, which actually tailors its courses, to extend it towards the different team members, and the input comes from the ops leads, because to understand where are the gaps, and also to, in terms of belongingness, I think all of these different activities that I touched on, whether it is stress buster, whether we also had this activity around when you have a family day or your daughter's day. In fact, all of us talk about Women's Day, but then we did celebrate Men's Day as well. So it's just about appreciating and accepting different diverse forms within your own teams, and then extending it beyond that, to be able to bring that thought process in place.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Thank you so much for throwing light on that. And I think the session has had some very valuable takeaways for those listening in today. So thank you for your time, Zeel and Vinita, for your wonderful sessions. And we will now move on to the section about tomorrow. Thank you so much. In
Thank you so much.
tomorrow's segment, Pride and Beyond, we will have Raga De Silva, author, DEI advisor, corporate speaker. With over 25 years of experience in the creative field, Raga has worked in senior positions in advertising in India and New Zealand and has been the recipient of several prestigious awards. Raga is a known advocate in the LGBT space. She has been named among the top 100 Wonder Women in advertising, marketing, and entertainment in 2021. Raga is currently working and writing two books and working on her first short film. A story that she wrote during the lockdown has been made into a feature film by Onir, an award winning filmmaker. You can also catch our agenda for the rest of the week at our portal, myavatar.com. On behalf of Team Avatar and myavatar.com, I thank each one of you and welcome you to the rest of the week at Diversity Mahotsav. We would like to thank our partners, Ideology Partners, Cognizant, HCL Technologies Limited, and Strive, supporting partners for Asia India Private Limited, Logitech Engineering and Designs India Private Limited, Saint Gobain India Private Limited, Sodexo and Sorian Solutions, and community partner NASCOM. Our social media hashtags are hashtag Diversity Mahotsav and hashtag Celebrating Diversity. Do post your experience at Diversity Mahotsav on your social media handles. We'd love to hear from you. If you have not registered yourself at myavatar.com, please log in today at myavatar.com and register yourself. Explore the new improved portal, which showcases exciting job opportunities with inclusive organizations and also other activities in our portal that celebrate diversity. Browse through to find jobs that might suit your skill sets, read articles of interest, and upskill yourself through various webinars conducted exclusively for you. Do join us tomorrow at 4 p.m. sharp for yet another insightful session. You can also view the hashtag Diversity Mahotsav series on our YouTube channel, Avatar the Power of Diversity. The link is posted in the chat box. In case you've missed our previous days, please do click on the YouTube link to watch our previous episodes. This is Anumita Sharma signing off this evening. Stay safe, stay masked. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.